All right, let's talk about something that's, well, it's pretty unsettling. The silent collapse of a nation. It doesn't arrive with some huge explosion. It just kind of creeps in. And at the heart of it all is a really important mystery. What's the very first thing that vanishes?
So let me ask you a question, straight up. Are you 100% sure the country you're living in right now will never, ever fail? That every morning you'll wake up, the banks will be open, the grocery stores will be full, and your money will be safe?
If you're sitting there thinking, yeah, of course it'll be fine, well, this quote right here should make you pause. It kind of hits you, right? Our feeling of normal is maybe the most powerful illusion there is, because that feeling of normalcy is exactly what everyone feels right up until the day it's gone. And this isn't just some abstract idea. Let's look at a real-world example. November 20th, 1997, in South Korea. It was just a normal Thursday. People went to work, kids went to school, everything was fine. The very next day, the entire country was forced to go to the IMF for an emergency bailout. It happens that fast. A nation's collapse doesn't look like a Hollywood movie. It's quiet, and that's what makes it so scary.
So that brings us back to the big question. What's the first domino to fall? What is the one thing that vanishes and kicks off the whole chain reaction? Understanding this isn't just about solving a mystery. I promise you, it will completely change the way you read the news every single day.
So our first clue is hiding in plain sight. It's buried under a giant mountain of numbers that, let's be honest, most of us try our best to ignore. National debt.
The best way to picture a country's financial situation is to think of an iceberg. What we see, the tip sticking out of the water, that's the official stuff. Government buildings, new laws, taxes being collected. But the real danger, the part that sinks ships, is the enormous, invisible mass of debt lurking just beneath the surface.
So, let's put a number on that tip of the iceberg. In 2023, South Korea's official national debt was about 1.1 trillion won. I mean, that's a number so massive it almost doesn't mean anything. And of course, the government line is always, "Don't worry, it's manageable. We've got it under control." But there's a trap.
Because that official number, it's really deceptive. It doesn't include all the debt from local governments or from huge state-owned companies, or the biggest one of all, those hidden promises, like all the future pension payments they're on the hook for. When you add all of that stuff in, the real number is actually closer to 3 trillion won.
Now, 3 trillion is still just a crazy number, so let's bring it right down to your kitchen table. What does this actually mean for you? It means there's over 24 million won of debt for every single person in the country. For a typical family of 4, that's a 100 million won burden just hanging over your future.
So how in the world does a government deal with this? And more importantly, what happens when they run out of options? This is where we find the tipping point.
A government that's this deep in the hole really only has 3 moves it can make. 1, raise your taxes. That's the direct approach, just taking more of your money. 2, print more money. This one is way sneakier. It causes inflation, which silently devalues every single won you've ever saved. Or 3, borrow more money just to pay off the old debt, basically kicking the can down the road. You notice the theme here, right? All 3 paths lead to money coming out of your pocket.
And right here, we've found it. We've arrived at the answer to our mystery. The very first thing to disappear when a nation collapses isn't the stock market or the banks or even the government. It's something much more fundamental.
Trust. That's it. It's that invisible collective faith that the money in our pockets actually means something. It's the belief that the government can and will make good on its promises. A nation doesn't collapse just because it has a lot of debt. It collapses the exact moment people stop believing in that debt. When that trust evaporates, poof, your money becomes just paper.
So, if a loss of trust is the trigger, how do you spot the warning signs before it's too late? Let's go through 4 huge red flags you can actually watch for in the news. Think of this as your personal early warning system.
First up, keep an eye on government bond rates. Now, this sounds technical, but the idea is simple. It's the interest rate the government has to pay to borrow money. If that rate starts to climb, that's a huge warning sign. It means the lenders, the people with the money, are getting nervous. They're demanding to be paid more because they see a growing risk they might not get their money back.
Second red flag. Watch the exchange rate. If your country's currency starts swinging around wildly, or if it's just on a steady slide downwards, that hits you directly in your wallet. The price of everything that's imported, from the gas in your car to the food on your table, it all goes up. Your purchasing power just shrinks.
The third sign is an unstable real estate market.
Look, when house prices fall off a cliff, it doesn't just hurt homeowners. It can set off a catastrophic chain reaction. All those properties have massive loans tied to them, and when those loans go bad, it can threaten the stability of the entire banking system. And finally, number 4, watch for a wave of companies going bankrupt. When you start seeing major businesses fail, especially ones that are carrying a lot of debt, it creates a domino effect. They can't pay their suppliers, they have to lay off their employees, and that economic pain just spreads like a virus.
Knowing the signs is absolutely critical. But knowledge without action is pretty useless. So for this last part, let's talk about what you can actually do. Let's build your personal insurance policy against a silent collapse.
We can break this down into a simple 3-part plan. First is capital defense. That's all about protecting your money. Second is building real survival skills. And third is your psychological defense, getting your mind right. The whole idea here is to go from being fearful to feeling empowered.
Okay, for capital defense, the steps are very concrete. Get aggressive about paying down your debt, especially that high-interest credit card debt. Keep some physical cash, actual paper money, in a safe place at home, just in case the banking system has a hiccup. And start building up a stockpile of essentials to last you and your family for 3 to 6 months.
But it's not all about money. Focus on things that have value no matter what the currency is doing. Learn practical skills, cooking from scratch, basic repairs, gardening. Those things can't be devalued. Try to diversify where your income comes from so you're not totally dependent on one job. And maybe the most important thing, invest in your network, your family, your friends. In a real crisis, that community is your ultimate safety net. Let's reframe this whole thing. This isn't about being pessimistic. Not at all. Protecting yourself and your family from risk, that is the absolute first step toward building real, resilient wealth that can actually handle any storm that comes its way. So I'll leave you with this thought. Your country has insurance policies for all kinds of disasters, for fires, floods, earthquakes. The question is, do you have an insurance policy for your own financial life?